Hey there everyone, and thank you so much for clicking on this video. So, in this episode of Review Flicks, we're going to be talking about Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. It's just been fully released, and now we have plenty of reviews to dive into, and let's see if this game is actually worth our time. So guys, if you are new around here, consider hitting that subscribe button so you can stay up to date with all the movie, streaming, and gaming news we have going on this channel. And with that down, we're going to be jumping into this article from boundingintocomics.com. Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League reviews are in. Absolutely not worth the wait. So yeah guys, this is a game I've really been looking forward to for a long time. As a DC mega fan, I collect the comics, I love the movies, and I couldn't wait to get my hands on this game, but I thought I'm going to hold off until I actually get to read the reviews, because I've been seeing a lot of rumblings going on online recently saying the game isn't very good, and well, I was going to pick up the game, but after reading the reviews, I think I'm going to save my money. So let's just go down and have a read and see what we can learn about what is going on with this game. So, Rocksteady Studios' Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League has launched, and much like previews, the reviews are a mixed bag. Got a cool image of evil Superman here. I think a lot of people are starting to get a bit sick of evil Superman in these games. I mean, every time we seem to get a DC game and Superman is featured, he always seems to go to the evil route. We never seem to get a good Superman, which kind of sucks. But I mean, having an evil Superman is pretty cool, but, you know, it'd be good to actually have a proper Man of Steel in one of these games one day. So, early previews did nothing to enthrall fans, as even the mainstream gaming press loathed Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. They hated the repetitive and boring gameplay that halted a few moments of fun that they actually had, and that it failed to stand out among other live service open world games. Yeah, I mean, one of the biggest kind of rumblings that's been going on online at the moment is that this whole game is essentially built around the microtransaction model. You know, the latest thing in games, gaming over the last few years is that companies don't seem to want to build actual good games anymore. They just want to build live services and just tailor it around microtransactions. They want to put all of these kind of, kind of hypnotic features into the game. They want to kind of shove you into microtransactions. They want to advertise it every chance they get. They want you to spend, even though you've spent money on a fully released game, £70, £60, however many pounds or dollars you spent on the game. They also want you to buy all these microtransactions, and they employ all these dodgy techniques to try and get you to spend as much money as possible. And games just don't feel the same as they used to, So, in fact, IGN would later report that they have been denied a copy of the game to review. This could be somewhat predicted, as they didn't enjoy the preview overly much. With Director of Video Game Content Strategy at IGN, Destin Legary, I think that's his name, concluding, quote, "I left the preview event less optimistic with them when I came in. Even so, many others also had underwhelming experiences." Yeah, so this was news that was going around recently before the release of the game. Obviously, the big gaming outlets, they get early review copies of the game so they can play the game, before the actual release date. They can get through a bulk of the campaign or multiplayer or whatever it is. And, they can get their review up online ASAP so, word of mouth can spread. And IGN obviously wasn't very happy with the game when they left the press junket gaming event. And IGN caught onto it, and IGN denied them the early review copy. And, it's kind of goes to show that, they obviously don't have much faith in their game. They didn't want IGN, probably the biggest gaming outlet, to have a review copy. They didn't want the bad word of mouth getting out. So, yeah. And obviously we've got a screen here. It's a classic kind of looter shooter live service. And as you can see, this is the kind of typical thing they do in these live services. It's all about, the weapons, the stats, the upgrades, all of this kind of stuff. Don't get me wrong, I love all that kind of stuff in games. I love collecting, new items, having great stats, comparing items, what are you going to use in certain situations or certain missions. That's really, really cool. But when you see this in a live service game, it feels manipulative to a certain degree, because all of these stats here are just built around microtransactions. Well, if you spend a little bit of cash in our store, you can get a better weapon, or you can get a better variant or a better version. And it's all this kind of manipulation, and it just feels a bit kind of cheap, a bit dirty, if you know what I mean. But yeah. So the reviews at launch continue the trend, but there were those with praise. VGC gave it 4 out of 5, with Jordan and Midler giving somewhat a backhanded praise. So yeah, don't get me wrong, there are gaming outlets out there and reviewers who have given this game a positive score, so it's not all negative. Like it said in the title at the top of the article, it is a mixed bag, but I think it's more predominantly kind of leaning towards the negative aspect of the game, but there are some good reviews in there. So Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League is a visually stunning anti-hero romp that's fun to play. Even if things you're actually doing are somewhat repetitive, that's going to be a common thread throughout this kind of video, guys, repetitive nature. He said, adding Rocksteady's Arkhamverse comes to a close in style, without fully succumbing to the live service demons. This is despite also noting that microtransactions for costumes were expensive. Absolutely, they're going to be expensive. You know, we've seen this in countless amount of games at this point, you know, paying for different colors of costumes. You know, it doesn't add anything to the actual gaming experience. You're just changing, you know, the design of a costume or the color of a weapon. You know, it doesn't actually add anything to the gameplay. But, you know, paying like, what, $20 or £15 or whatever currency you pay just for a costume change, it's just kind of crazy. In a fully released, you know, game that you're paying full price for, you should not be paying, you know, for microtransactions. It's crazy. So Midler also highlights how Rocksteady tried to gut the live service elements. As while gear is tiered, players are quickly given very powerful tools. It means that when stuff drops from enemies, there's no incentive to look at it, because you'll probably already have something great, or you're about to go up an entire tier during the next mission. Yeah, I mean, that's a really big kind of, you know, negative point. If you're in a looter shooter, it's all about picking up new items, new weapons, new equipment. And if you're not incentivized to actually look at the equipment that you're picking up, then, you know, that's kind of half of the looter shooter kind of down the drain. And, you know, if you're not excited about the loot, then it's kind of like, what are we really doing at that point? So, Xbox era Jesse Donkabessa Norris. That's a mouthful. Sorry if I butchered that name. Was another reviewer offering a high praise, granting the recently released title an 8.2 out of 10. Wow, that's a really high score. So, quote, while the objectives can feel repetitive, again, that's what we've already heard, repetitive, the excellent gameplay never does. Norris commended. Despite praising the graphics, gameplay, writing, and gear loot system, even he couldn't applaud the always online demand. This is another major thing as well. You know, when servers go down or when certain issues arise with internet connections, you know, you paid full price for a game and you can't get access to your game if it's not online, which is just silly. Why can we not just have a game that's, you know, not online? The reason I think is for this is because they want to be constantly connected to your gameplay profile all the time, because they need statistics on your microtransactions. They want to know how often you play. They want to know what you buy. They want to know what equipment you use. All of this kind of statistics feeds into their microtransaction system. And that's a theory of mine as to why they need the game online all the time. So Noah Nelson of the PC Invasion also gave the game 8 out of 10. That's really good as well. So, quote, the good found in gameplay, cutscenes, level design far outweigh the bad in the campaign's pacing, and some grisly missions and boss fights. So Nelson upheld the game's humor, combat, level design, a smart live service aspects. Nevertheless, he took issue with being repetitive by nature of being a live service game, the story feeling rushed at the end, boss fights and missions vary wildly in quality, and the ever-loathed escort missions. Yeah, so this is something we've heard time and time again as well with live service games. Obviously, Marvel's Avengers is going to be, you know, the main kind of example that we look at when we compare it to Suicide Squad. You know, in that game, you have the generic baddies in between the boss fights, and you're kind of just, you know, repeatedly taking out the same baddies all the time, the same henchmen, if you like, and it just gets stale really, really quick. So, Push Square's Aaron Bain was another one who gave it a somewhat respectable score of a 7 out of 10. Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League is a complicated game. It's tough not to think about what could have been if Rocksteady opted for another traditional single-player title. Yeah, if they had this as a single-player title, you know, where you could swap out the characters of the Suicide Squad and, you know, it was a little bit more forethought into the game, just a single-player campaign, I think it could be something really great. But the live service aspect has kind of tainted the product. It's turned a lot of people off. especially since the split personalities at the game's heart stop it from reaching the heights of the developer's previous works. So, despite issues with story pacing, mission variety, again, mission variety and kind of repetitiveness, that's the two kind of main threads that we're hearing so far, and even a lack of faith in the game's lifespan, Bane can't deny the game's fun. He felt it managed to remain engaging, had fun combat, and looked great. There is a bittersweet feeling surrounding Suicide Squad, and the sentiment will remain for a lot of players, but it's hard to say that Rocksteady entirely missed the mark with the big gamble. With this big gamble, that's yet to be seen, because obviously in the first couple of weeks when the game first comes out, you have all the hype, the marketing, everything surrounding it. You have so many people streaming it online, and a lot of people are going to be picking up this game regardless of the reviews. But as the weeks and months go on, how many players are going to drop off? Is the live service going to be able to sustain itself if nobody's buying any microtransactions? And what will the state of the game be in 2 months, 3 months, 4 months? That's when we'll really get a good indication as to where this game is going and if it's going to succeed or fail. So, curiously, many of the criticisms the positive reviews did bring up were shared by those who didn't like the game. Dennis Michael for German outlet GamePro gave it a 60 out of 100. His conclusion, however, read like a far lower score. Suicide Squad is a shadow of what once made Rocksteady one of the best developers for open-world action games. So, giving high praise for presentation, 4 out of 5 for this category. Game design was slated 1 out of 5, noting that while essentially fun, it was uncreative, too repetitive, there's that word again, repetitive, in combat and mission types, and the hero also playing similar, I can never say that word. The heroes playing I can't say that word. But basically, he's saying that the heroes, they feel the same regardless of their differences, which is really, really bad because, one of the major selling points of this game should be that every one of the Suicide Squad heroes feels, unique to themselves. But if they all feel similar to each other, then, that's really not good. Not everyone feels like that, but this reviewer did. But, that's obviously not a good thing. This screenshot here looks really, really bad. I mean, look at this heads-up display, right? There's so much stuff on this screen. It looks like it would give me bloody seizures. You've got hit counters, you've got timers, you've got like rounds here, you've got health bar, you've got just stuff all over the screen everywhere. It looks so messy. Whether this HUD was kind of turned up to the max or whether it doesn't actually look like this in the game, but whether someone's just added this stuff by option, but it looks like a mess. There's just stuff all over the place, and it gives me anxiety looking at it. So, Yusuf Elkabadi, I don't know how to say that, Elkhadri, of Keen Gamer, sorry I butchered it again, the name, had one of the first lukewarm reviews of the game with 55 out of 100. Overall, the game leaves a lot to be desired. At first glance, the combat seems interesting, but ultimately falls flat due to the repetitive nature, nature of the missions and combat encounters. So yeah, it sounds like, for the first couple of hours, you're probably going to really enjoy the combat. You're probably going to have a lot of fun jumping around, whacking baddies and doing all kinds of stuff to henchmen. But then, once that kind of novelty of the newness of the game kind of wears off and you're kind of left with the meat and potatoes, so to speak, then it's going to become really kind of dry and boring and kind of repetitive. So, he also praised the dialogue and cutscenes, mentioning that the dialogue made moments in the story that were not ideal, more tolerable, but felt that always online demand was a slap in the face, but it can be forgiven. As I said, they want you online because they want to monitor your activity so they can upsell you microtransactions. That's what I think it is. So ultimately, the game can be enjoyed by some DC fans looking for a quick, chaotic fun. Yet, a lot of diehard comic book fans will come quick to realize that certain aspects of the comic accuracy and character development, the hefty price tag is definitely unjustified and doesn't feel fully worth it, he cautioned. Yeah, as I say, you're paying, a full price of 60, 70 pounds, and then you've got all these microtransactions pushed in your face. The game feels repetitive. The campaign seems to be pretty short from what I can see, and it doesn't seem worth the money somehow. So either wait until it's on Game Pass if you have Game Pass, or pick it up maybe in a few months' time when it's on discount if you're still interested in playing it. So from Spanish outlet, I have no idea how to say that. A Spanish outlet gave a scathing 4 out of 10. Also finding it repetitive. Again, that word keeps cropping up time and time again. Making the same mistakes as Marvel's Avengers, and the always online requirement being all negatives. I think in this day and age, it's ridiculous that you can pay £70 for a game, or $80, $90, whatever it is. And the fact that if your internet has issues, that means you can't play your game that you've paid full price for. I think it's insane. So is this the same Rocksteady Studios that made the legendary Batman Arkham? Asked. Honestly, I don't know, but the game doesn't deliver in hardly any of its various aspects, being an adventure game that I would only recommend if you decide to buy it at a price much lower than it's currently priced. Yeah, like I said, in a couple of weeks, if it starts to come out that, the game's badly received, they'll start discounting it in different stores, or you can pick it up on Game Pass if it comes to Game Pass. I'm not sure if it is. You guys will have to help me out with that. But yeah, you'll definitely be able to get a discount version of it at some point. So not to be entirely snubbed by Rocksteady, IGN released a review in progress. Simon Cardy warned, "My first 11 hours or so with Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League have left me with wildly mixed thoughts. There are things I like, things I don't, and worst of all, things that elicit no emotional response at all." This was after reaching the end of its shortish campaign, but not the post-game. So while he felt it was a well-told story, and had some engaging moments. So yeah, this is another thing we keep hearing. So the two main things, one is the negative of the repetitive combat, but the other is that the story is actually quite good. It's engaging, it's fun, and it's not that bad at all. So thoughtful mission design is almost non-existent, and many of its looter shooter systems fall flat. Thoughtful mission design is almost non-existent. That sounds so bad. The squad being focused on bland guns in their combat, and only a handful of abilities related to their powers, and lore was also a sore spot. A handful of abilities related to their powers. Yeah, like I say, you've got these 4 different main characters in the Suicide Squad at the moment that you can play, and if they don't do enough to delineate the differences between the characters and the powers and how you play with the characters, that's going to be a major sticking point for a lot of people playing this game. So comparing it to Marvel's Avengers, which Cardy enjoyed, he added, "The first step towards trying to avoid a similar fate would be to create a compelling combat system that makes me want to return to Suicide Squad week after week, which isn't quite achieved at this point." So, in the future, they could potentially add, more combat styles in, more power-ups. They could sort of tweak the combat system if they need to. But, they shouldn't have to do that. You've paid full price for this game. It should work. It should be great from the start. You shouldn't have to wait for a game to be improved over time. That's like an early access thing that we see on Steam. And it's just not acceptable at this point that we keep paying full price for these big AAA games, only to have to wait, months, potentially years, for the game to be upgraded to the quality it should have been when it first came out. And yeah, I could go on a whole rant about that. So the UK's Metro newspaper also released a review in progress under Game Central. They seem to have a milquetoast experience, prefacing, "We can conclusively say that we won't hate it. We don't hate it, sorry. We may end up hating it because it's already starting to show signs of considerable repetition, but this is not a Lord of the Rings Gollum situation." Oh dear Lord. That was an abomination that needs to be dumped in the ocean somewhere. Where it's going to end up on the worst games of 2023 list. Well, it probably will, but it shouldn't. So, from what we've experienced so far, it seems clear that the Suicide Squad is not a bad game, but neither is it a good one, despite the assurance. The Metro is quick to add the game is absolutely not worth the wait. The gunplay, while very solid, lacks imaginative weapons, and pales in comparison to the Arkham series and Spider-Man 2. But there was one game it shared similarities with. It's depressing how Suicide Squad blunders into all the same mistakes as Marvel's Avengers, including not properly leveraging its source material, which is all based around fighting weird and charismatic opponents. Presumably the Justice League are meant to fill that role here, but all the Flash and Green Lantern have done so far is taunt us, while the most dangerous enemy boss has been a walking artillery cannon that doesn't talk. So yeah, that's really not good. So they're saying that, the gunplay is okay, it's a bit repetitive, it's just not as good as the Arkham games used to be, and that the boss fights are I can't even speak. So the boss fights are a little bit kind of weak as well, which is really, really bad because that's kind of the mainstay of the game. So yeah, it doesn't look like they enjoyed this game whatsoever. So in summation, consistent issues seem to be the game being repetitive. That is something we've heard in pretty much every review up until this point. Failing to inspire the imagination with its source material, its always online requirements, and being undercut by being compared to games that were far better or worse. The only fun seems to be to be the humor, traversal, and shooting, albeit the last two being simplistic. So, Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League suffered a rocky road throughout development, all the way up until its launch. This included multiple delays, the last coming a month after fans were outraged over the game needing to be always online, even in single player, and the aforementioned live service elements. Yeah, I mean, when you're releasing a game in this day and age, especially a AAA game, if at any point in your marketing material leading up to the release of the game, if people get an inkling that it's a live service, then it just automatically probably turns like a third of the player base off straight away. Because as soon as you hear the word live service, all you can think of as a gamer is, right, I'm going to play this game, and then all they're going to do is try and get me to buy microtransactions. The whole game's going to be built around microtransactions. That's all the word live service means at this point. So, Rocksteady Studios reportedly attempt to resolve an issue with whistleblower for money. What? Rocksteady Studios reportedly attempted to resolve an issue with a whistleblower with money. She had quit due to the studio holding off the alleged sexual harassment of 16 women. Rejecting the money only made her claims more widely known. Okay, I've not heard anything about this. Handling of an alleged sexual harassment of 16 women. What? That sounds crazy. So the entire plot also leaked, adding fuel to the fire. I don't think there's any spoilers in here, guys. Don't worry too much about it. Adding fuel to the fire, combined with leaked cutscenes, fans were outraged. Kevin Conroy then acclaimed final performance as Batman was tone deaf and disrespectful to both the character and the iconic voice actor. Rather conveniently, an alleged insider later claimed that Conroy had two final roles recorded as the Dark Knight. So finally, at least for now, those who bought the $100 deluxe edition received their 72-hour early access for less than an hour. Yeah, this was so bad. I remember hearing about this. I almost picked up this version of the game myself, the early access version, but I did the smart thing and held off. And yeah, they paid for the early access version, and then an hour into the early access, the servers were pulled offline, and they couldn't get access to the version of the game they paid for, the early access point of the game. So it's really, really bad. Servers were pulled offline, making the game unplayable. It was also discovered a bug gave players completed save files upon booting the game for the first time. I mean, what the heck is that? So you buy the early access version of the game, which cost you $100 for the early 72 early access hour version of the game. You spend all that money, you can only play it for an hour before you're pulled offline, and then you get back on and you have a fully completed game. Like, so those players were later compensated with 2,000 Luther coins. Oh my god. When I hear about these in-game currencies, it literally makes me clench. Like, oh, I hate this kind of shit. An in-game currency worth $20 that was reportedly led to an almost 800% rise in people searching for Suicide Squad Refund online. I absolutely don't blame them. I'd be absolutely peed off if I had spent my hard-earned money on the 72-hour early access version of the game to find out that I couldn't actually play the early access part of the game. I would be super pissed. Super, super pissed. So Marvel's Avengers, like the likely inspiration for live service in Suicide Squad, Kill the Justice League launched and was shut down within 3 years. That may have inspired some of the delays, but it seems the Suicide Squad was far too in development and could only plow on with its collision course. So, like I said throughout the video, the only thing that's going to tell, as to whether this game's going to work or not, we're going to have to wait and see. In 3 months, 4 months, up to 6 months potentially. It's a live service game, so if nobody's purchasing any microtransactions, then we'll have to see how it goes. How many players are going to continue to keep playing? Are players going to get to the end of the campaign? Apparently, there's not much, at the end game content as of now. I know they have released a roadmap for the, DLCs and stuff for this game, but at the moment, it seems to be repetitive. The boss fights don't seem very strong. Is it going to hold on to the players that it needs to in order for the live service to work? We'll just have to wait and see. But guys, jump into the comment section. Let me know what you think about these reviews. Have you been reading reviews of Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League? And did it prevent you from actually purchasing the game if you were going to purchase it in the first place? And just let me know your overall thoughts about what you think about what the game looks like. Are you playing the game currently? Do you enjoy it if you are playing it? I'd love to know your overall thoughts, comments, and opinions. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and I will see you.